Coming up
All
on
of
Unleash
those
Thyself.
tools, including the celebration, help get your brain into that more effective, calm state that we all want to be in. But in my
Yes.
experience, I think what you said is when you're celebrating your wins, it over time will sort of create new neurological pathways. And that's absolutely true. It becomes automatic. So as we talked earlier about, how this is your autonomic, well, I'm specifically interested in your autonomic nervous system, which is all the automatic things. These tools amongst, strategies that you use, anyone who's celebrating wins is recreating the pathway for that automatic response, so that when you feel stressors, right, little tiny stressors creeping up, because we're experiencing them all day long, it's just life.
Hello, beautiful soul, and welcome to Unleash Thyself, a podcast where we journey into the depths of personal transformation, spirituality, and growth. I'm your host, Konstantin Morun, and today we welcome Erin Harrington. Erin helps busy, overwhelmed high achievers, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders find wholeness by aligning their work with their overall well-being, so they can harmoniously integrate with the life of ease and fulfillment that they've dreamed of. Now, she's the founder of Soul Values and the author of The Whole Life Planner, an integrated toolkit for purpose, productivity, and peace, blending proven concepts within science, self-care, and sacred practices. So with that, Erin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here with you, Konstantin. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'll ask you the first question that came to mind as I was reading your intro again. You help people find wholeness. What's wholeness? How do we define wholeness? Or how does everyone look at it?
That's a really good question. I define wholeness as a sense of harmony between sort of your personal and professional demands. So that means work, relationships, spirituality, if that's important to you, family, things like that, health.
Health, yeah, of course, absolutely. I love that, right? Because I talk about similar things, right? And on this podcast, we're all about bringing in those holistic approaches where we look at life not just from one angle, but we look at life from as many angles as possible and realize that nothing works in isolation. Realize that nothing really just is the only source of a challenge, of a situation. There's usually something that combines with something else that brings upon something in your life. So with that being said, right, let me ask you this. Purpose, right? It's the first word you talk about in your book, right? The Whole Life Planner. It's a toolkit for purpose, productivity, and peace. Mm-hmm. How do you see purpose for all of us? Is purpose something that everyone has access to?
I believe everyone has access to it. Not everyone has recognized that power that they have. One of my favorite quotes actually is a quote by Shakespeare, and it's behind me on this poster here. And it's, "The meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away." And so I really like that dichotomy of finding your gift and then defining your purpose and sharing it. In my personal experience, as well as with the clients and the people that I mentor and things like this, I've found that when you connect with purpose, it actually makes stress significantly less, and it naturally increases your effectiveness and ease. So it's kind of like, why wouldn't you try to find your purpose? And so that's what I'm very much driven by, is to help people find their purpose so that they can experience a sense of harmony. Because balance is a misnomer. It's hard to find exact balance across all your life domains. But yes, I like to, that's my goal, is to just make everyone feel like these major life stressors, or what feels like major life stressors, aren't as big as they're perceived to be. And there's tools and things like that that you can hack in order to get in to address that. So
Yeah, I love
I
how
sort of
because
jumped ahead, but yeah.
no, we'll get to that, right? That's beautiful, Erin. Thank you. And we'll talk about some of those tools and how you help people find that and how you helped yourself. And I just wanted to add that personally, the reason I'm even sitting here in front of you right now and in front of this beautiful audience is because I took time to finally go deeper on my purpose. And in that process, uncovering gifts and strengths that I didn't even know I had. And it was interesting, right? Because Shakespeare's the quote that he mentions there talks about finding your gift first and then sharing it with the world. That's your purpose. What I have found in my practice and the way I help people as well with the system I've built is purpose and gifts and strengths kind of go hand in hand. It's like it's based on the stories of your life. So as you uncover the themes of your life, which is essentially your gifts and your strengths, in my opinion, the purpose starts to show itself up as well. So it's such a beautiful way because you realize all of a sudden, oh, I've been doing this all my life. I just didn't realize it. On July 18, I'm going to be hosting this amazing event called Calm Success Live. It's a 4-hour masterclass, and it's all about helping change makers like you listening right now to embrace the calm, to unleash that success that's on your own terms and not by someone else's definition, without pressure, without sacrifice, so you can achieve more, stress less, improve performance or sales, or whatever you like to improve. And of course, the biggest one for me and for many people is the ability to create time for what you truly love. Yeah, you see, you may be spending 40, 50, 60, maybe even 70 hours right now on your career, be it your business, be it working for someone else. And it doesn't have to be that way. And unfortunately, if you're listening to this, you're likely also stuck in a career that's not very fulfilling. So come to this event on July 18. You'll find details below, calmsuccesslive.com. It's a free event. You'll get so much value out of it. We have a ton of testimonials from the first time we did this a couple of months ago. You don't want to miss it.
Absolutely. Yes, I really value that you relate to that. I also think it's important to note that purpose evolves, right? It's not like this North Star and then you get to it and then everything sort of like
Exactly.
shows up. It doesn't work like that. It's more of a compass that puts you in the right direction in life, but it is ever evolving. If you sort of set the expectation that your purpose will be sort of finite, you're actually creating more stress and more disservice for yourself.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And you know what? As you were mentioning that, what came up for me was this idea that I don't know who mentioned this to me at one point, but for example, if you're flying from the US to, I believe, Hawaii, and you're up in the air, the pilot turns on the autopilot to let them do their thing. It's actually 90% of the time it's course correction.
mm-hmm.
So it's like going in a direction, but then he has to keep correcting. He has to keep correcting. And that's how I see purpose as well. Purpose gives you that ability to self-correct and put yourself on a path. And then, of course, like you said, evolve throughout the entire process. Because I look at mine when I went through the journey of uncovering mine, despite asking the question all my life, it was only about 3 years ago. And since then, it's evolved quite a bit because, like you mentioned, we evolve as human beings. We learn and grow. And it's not that the core of it changed, because it absolutely hasn't. But what changed for me is perhaps how you execute the purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Certain aspects of it, small nuances and words and how it feels for you. So I'm curious to see your experience there. Like in your personal example, how has your purpose evolved over the years?
Well, that's a great question. Also, a loaded question. So, let me try to give you a high level of where I've been in life.
Yes.
As a young woman, a part of my purpose was to sort of explore the world, right? So I backpacked all over the place. I spent a number of months in India and Nepal. This is just post college. And at the time, that served my purpose.
Yeah.
then I went and sort of started in the professional space and ended up sort of falling into the sales leadership role at startups and things like this. I loved it. It was really exciting. I felt like that was my purpose at the time. And, in hindsight, what was my purpose in that experience was, and also the India experience and traveling, is that I really like to listen to people. I really like to understand them, and I like to help them see a different perspective because it fulfills my purpose. I like that. I enjoy that. And so I was extremely successful as a startup leader. And then I burnt out, Constantine. Like, I had a lot of back pain. It was actually difficult for me to walk. And the only thing that I could think of at the time was that it was stress. And so I retired from my sales job because I didn't want the stress. It was impacting my life too much. I planned to go into studying acupuncture. I was enrolled in an acupuncture master's degree, actually, because I was like, yes, I'm going to serve people. This is my purpose. And then, babies came into my life a little faster than I expected. And so that program was deferred. And ultimately, what happened was I was gifted with these two beautiful human beings, now 19 and 21, my son and daughter, college age. But with my experience of having children, it sort of triggered these genetic things to go haywire. So I actually got quite sick especially after my second child was born. And my purpose then for years, to be honest with you, was to, be a mom, but to advocate for myself so that I could get the right care and the right answers for what was happening to me neurologically and muscularly, right? So I still think that's a big part of my purpose, is to advocate for myself. Because if I hadn't advocated for myself, I honestly would not be here today. I just totally wouldn't. My heart, one of my many conditions is that my heart was stopping. So I was flatlining regularly and passing out and having concussions. But, look, if you're a middle-aged woman and you have two children and you have confusing symptoms, guess what? Like, doctors think it's stress. They always call it stress. So what was happening is that essentially my purpose in that case was to continue to push, advocate, get the care that I needed. And now that I've honestly, the pacemaker went in during COVID. And since then, my life has changed dramatically because I'm awake. My heart isn't stopping anymore. And so my purpose, honestly, I would say over the past couple of years became very clearly just to help high achievers have the tools so that they could live a harmonious life and be super effective. Because I think performance at the end of the day is the name of the game. And so the tools that my idea, my purpose, everything that I am here to do is to help people sort of achieve more with less stress.
Exactly. I love that. And it's funny because I do similar things, and we can talk about it in a second. But what really fascinates me about your story there, right? Because you touched on something so critical that most of us don't realize, and I didn't realize for most of my life, is the importance of actually being a big advocate and realizing that purpose to yourself first before you take it out to everyone else, or as you take it out for everyone else. Because if you don't become your biggest ally, then who will? Right? That's how I always see it now. And in the past, I was like, that makes sense why my life was the way it was, because I wasn't an ally to myself. I wasn't advocating for myself. I wasn't giving myself self-care. I wasn't doing any of this stuff. So why would the outside world reflect anything else? That's at least how I realized my life was. And now I was successful all along, but like you, with the stress, with the chaos, with the anxiety, the depression, all those things, and some physical manifestations as well.
Mm. Yeah, I see that with a lot of people. I mean, the truth is that, stressors are inevitable. We face them in life, right? Big, small stressors across the board. But stress, actually responding to stress, is a choice, in my opinion. It is an active choice that we can manage, we can hack, because it has such a vast impact on our lives, our relationships, our effectiveness at work, our health, our financial freedom. All of those things are affected by our stress.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And I mean, stress is like many words in the English language. They have so many definitions and interpretations. Of course, there's the base one, but everyone sees stress in their own life way, way differently than everyone else, right? And at least that's what I've been in my experience. And it's really interesting to go down the path of various individuals and see what causes them stress to begin with, because what causes you stress may not cause me stress and vice versa, which is so interesting to see, because it tells you of the human complexity, right? And how complex it is to be a human being, which is why I'm a big believer that whenever you are in the business of helping others, if it's not tailored specifically to them, you're doing them a disservice. Which unfortunately, if you look at society nowadays, that's, everyone is like, you're just a woman of this age, so you must be feeling this way, or you're just a man of this age and you must be feeling this way, right? And it's a bit more complex than that.
Right. I agree with that. I think that I love your point about how everyone experiences stress differently. Some are very verbal with their stress, some are inward. Um, it's across the board. But the fact of the matter is, the American Institute for Stress, I think it is, says 83% of workers say that they're stressed. That's big. That's huge. And of course, well, you're speaking to an American here. Americans happen to be the most stressed out population in the world. And we happen to be more stressed than any population, and we're the richest country in the world. So what does that say about our values? I believe that if you do some simple strategies to sort of tap into your own sort of soul, your purpose, things that matter to you, it's pretty easy to create a sense of sort of harmony in your life, which includes that sense of empowerment, happiness, effectiveness, and of course, stress reduction, which improves your well-being.
Yeah, let's talk tools then, because I feel like that would be a great next place to stop. Like, perhaps let's start with purpose, right? Because you alluded to this earlier. What are some easy ways people can start looking at their life and finding those gifts, finding the purpose?
Right. So let me take a quick step back. While I was going through this process of trying to figure out a number of things that were happening with my health, and then once I determined that a number of the neurologic conditions actually had to do with my stress response. So literally so there's two parts of your brain. There's the central nervous system and there's the autonomic nervous system, right? The autonomic nervous system is think of it as automatic. It's all the behind the scenes stuff that you don't pay attention to, but it has big impact on your body. So within that autonomic nervous system, your temperature, your blood pressure, your heart rate, your muscle control, your cognition, all sorts of things are managed, right? I happen to have a condition which puts my autonomic nervous system frequently in that stress response. And so that meant that my blood pressure was affected, my heart rate, all sorts of my thinking, all sorts of stuff. So I know that stress response intimately because I actually have a neurologic dysfunction that puts me in that space. And I actually see this as a gift. I feel really fortunate that I've been tortured over the years with so many complicated health problems and disabilities because I've learned so much. And this book that I created, the Whole Life Planner, I actually created just out of my own tools. So all the things that I did in cognitive rehab, cognitive retraining, from the concussions I faced from, my heart stopping and things like that. All the different tools that I picked up and designed on my own are in this book, in this 90-page planner, and it's front loaded with a bunch of worksheets. I think there's about 20 worksheets in there. You can access, your guests can actually access, I think there's 3 of those pages in the download that I'm offering. It's at my website. It's at soulvalues.com/promo. And inside of that, what you'll get is essentially a life assessment. Let me see if I have it to show you here. So it's basically a life assessment and identifying, right? So mine's a little sketched in, but it's your wheel of life, life goals, and a little bit of a vision board. Now, that's part of sort of getting your brain in that sort of grounded state of what matters to you, because what matters to you is very different than what matters to me.
Yes.
And of course, you have to sort of take self-inventory before you can move forward. And so those worksheets, that sort of self-inventory piece that I think is critical, is a free download for your audience. Now, what I also believe in is, very simple questions to sort of connect with your soul, your purpose, right? Because I think those are really big words for people. When they hear soul and they hear purpose and they're not quite self-defining themselves in that category yet, it is like, oh my God, that's not for me. That's like too big. That's too deep. And actually, it's not that. It's not as scary and big. It's actually very peaceful and helpful. So let me give you an example of one of the questions on my soul discovery worksheet. In fact, it's the first question in my book. What am I so passionate about that I lose hours doing it? Right. So,
what if it's watching Netflix? That used to be one of mine, and it wasn't a passion. I realized much later, but that happened.
Well, one of my passions actually is giving feedback to other people on like Facebook business groups and things like this, or communicating with other entrepreneurs. And it's also a big waste of time for me. So I have to be super, I just have to be, I have to be consistent about not using that. In fact, so in my daily pages of my book, let's see, let me show you a blank one. These are designed to sort of get your brain into that parasympathetic sort of flow state where you feel better, your heart's not racing, you're more at ease, you're making better decisions. Your brain's not scattered, things like that. You just feel more grounded in general. So I believe in a number of sort of neuro tools that help hacks, let's call them, that will help you get into that state. So on a daily basis, for example, I start with, I'm grateful for, in a daily affirmation. And then I set my soul goal, which it could be spelled SOUL, or it could be considered as SOLE, SOLE, but one goal for the day. I also set distractions to avoid, because it's important to, I think, cognitively state what you're going to avoid that day. It's important to reassess your 90-day goal, tools to support yourself. I have a dump zone. And then at the end of the day, here's where the real magic happens, Constantine. Whether you use my book or my tools, that's irrelevant, right? It's the concept, which is to set your goal, and at the end of the day, identify what your win is and how you'll improve, right? So these are baby steps. They don't have to be huge. They can be huge, but sort of like tapping into that, I will do this and I did X well, or I could do X, Y, and Z better, will directly sort of calm your nervous system so that you are in that flow state, but it just feels better. You're achieving, you're more likely to experience more wins and less likely to experience disease and all sorts of stressors and things like that if you use these kinds of tools.
Hey, it's Constantine here, and I want to take a brief moment to truly thank you for being a part of this incredible journey of transformation. You are the reason we are creating this content. I see you and I appreciate you. Your support truly means the world to me. I want to ask you for a small favor. I'd love for you to join our mission by hitting like, subscribe, or leaving a thoughtful comment or review. Your engagement helps others discover these insights, and together we can continue to unlock the power of authenticity and personal transformation. Thank you for being a part of this movement. Now, back to the episode.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. That's actually powerful. And for those just listening, you'll be able to see the links in the show notes where to get that information and see some of the examples that Erin showed us or talked about. A lot of things came up as you're talking about that. One thing that stood out the most is this idea of celebration, or simply acknowledging yourself for a win at the end of the day. And celebration is a huge part, not only of my own, let's call them daily rituals or daily practices now, but also what I encourage everyone I get to work with, be it as a paid client or just someone I mentor or a friend. And the reason being is I'm a man of the sciences, right? I have a math degree, and it fascinates me to go into the psychology of things. And psychology has been my passion for 20 years, so I've researched quite a lot in that area. And here's what I found, and I'm curious to see your take. And this is based in research, they found not only does it help you in the short term to celebrate your wins, because it helps you release the good feel hormones, dopamine, serotonin, everything else. It also starts to build up a new pathway in your brain where it's like, well, if that felt good, that means you want more of it. So it builds up this resilience, it builds up this practice where you actually get to celebrate yourself pretty much on autopilot at times. Like I catch myself where I'm like going through my day and all of a sudden I'm seeing myself celebrate. And the way I do is like I have a big smile on my face. I sometimes pat my chest. I say, yes, good job, Constantine, or whatever words I use in the moment. And the more you do something, obviously, the more it becomes part of your routine, part of your automatic system. And anyway, for me, that's what stood out the most because it's something I've seen so much value with in my own life and the life of so many others. But everything else you said, oh my God, so powerful with the daily vision, the daily goal. All those things are so powerful because it gives you direction, I would imagine, among many other things.
Yes, I think all of those tools, including the celebration, help get your brain into that more effective, calm state that we all want to be in. But in my experience, I think what you said is, when you're celebrating your wins, it over time will sort of create new neurological pathways. And that's absolutely true. It becomes automatic. So as we talked earlier about, how this is your autonomic, well, I'm specifically interested in your autonomic nervous system, which is all the automatic things. These tools amongst, strategies that you use, anyone who's celebrating wins is recreating the pathway for that automatic response, so that when you feel stressors, right, little tiny stressors creeping up, because we're experiencing them all day long, it's just life, your body and your mind are able to respond to that more effectively. So for example, at a really basic level, although I've managed my health really well, I'm still a disabled individual. I have a lot of medical challenges. I do not get down about those medical challenges, even the days when I have like severe migraines and any number of other things, and can't walk very well or things like that. Why would I get down on myself? Because if you get down on yourself, all you're doing is creating more stress that will effectively get you into that really negative state. It's going to cause more chronic stress. It's going to make your brain work less effectively. All the negative things, impair your communication, impair your relationships, impair your work, your well-being. Why would you do that when you can just sort of like say, look at the trees outside. Life is good. Like, life is good. I am here. I'm having a conversation with Constantine, who's a really interesting human being. And like, what's to complain about? Right. So I think
The perspective.
I think it's more important than ever before with really what's happening in the world in general, to have resources that help us rewrite the story that we're experiencing on a daily basis.
So well said, Erin. I love everything you said there. What comes up, right away to acknowledge is the fact that as soon as you drop into gratitude, which is what you did there, and you have it as part of that routine you talked about, everything shifts in your life because you realize you actually have a lot more that you can celebrate than the things you don't have. And when it comes to stress, when it comes to things that happen in your environment, right? Well, it's kind of the same thing because you can look at it from any angle you want, and you can choose if you want to focus on the negatives or if you want to focus on the positives. And of course, some situations are more difficult than others, but I have found in my personal experience that the more I focus on the positives in any given situation, the less stress I face, the less negativity I have in my life, the less dissatisfaction, you name it. Like, there's so many benefits, it's unbelievable. And it's really all about perspective. And if you want to be someone that spends time watching the news and only looking at the negative things, then unfortunately you're just training yourself to only respond to that and to bring more of the chaos into your life. And if you're someone like yourself, then now realize, hey, the power lies with me. The power is within to make these changes in my life. And you've given yourself permission to grow. You've given yourself permission to literally take control of your life and make a difference, not only in your life, but now in the life of so many other people through this podcast, through the beautiful work you do, through everything. And which one do you want to be?
Right. And that right there is super empowering, right? Like, I think the simple fact to realize that we can manage, we have the propensity to manage really big things in life, and sort of turn it around. That doesn't mean that challenges won't happen, right? They will. But if we face it with a slightly different perspective, that directly allows our brain to cope better, right? So if you're offering yourself, for example, gratitude, today's wins, how I'll improve, those kinds of things directly get you into that relaxation response, which is also called there's the sympathetic, fight or flight response. That's the stress response that we were talking about earlier. And the opposite of that, the state that I would like all of my clients and your listeners to be in, and I think you'd like that as well, is the relaxation response, which is also known as the executive response. It's called the executive response for a reason. And that's because when we're super relaxed, we think clearly, we make better decisions, we're more efficient, we're more effective. So, this goes back to, I see a lot of people saying, I'm too busy, or I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time to go for a walk in the woods. I don't have enough time to garden, but I've wanted to do it for 20 years. I'm like, okay, the concept of time poverty is, in fact, just that, your own concept of poverty, right? Because can you get everything you want done in a single day? No. But can you achieve a lot of success in a single day? You absolutely can. And the more that you sort of tap into that sort of relaxation executive response, you find that you free up time, the sense of time. So instead of working harder to achieve, whether you're a stay-at-home parent or whether you're, C-level executive at a Fortune, 100 company, it's the same. It's exactly the same across the board.
Absolutely. I love that you brought up the idea of creating time or finding time or buying back time, and the idea of time poverty, or as I call it, time scarcity, that we find around. Because part of what I do with people is I help them find time in the day, not find it necessarily, but create it, right? Because it's about realizing that we all have the same amount of hours and minutes in a day. But then if you look around you, you'll always find people that seem to be doing so much in a day that you couldn't get done in a week. And if that's the case, it's not necessarily to look at them and beat yourself up and be like, they're just better than me or they have more privilege than me. But realizing that if they can do it, that means that there's nothing really stopping you from you being able to do that and even doing it better and getting more stuff done. And once we put ourselves in that empowered space where it's like not about comparing ourselves to others, but being inspired by others, we can now create all this time. And with my clients, I find it all the time so amazing when, we start and I make the claims, hey, I'm going to help you create time in your life, among many other things, stress less, achieve more, improve performance. And some people are skeptical. They're like, you know what? I didn't come here for time creation. I'm like, sure, but that's a byproduct. Let's see how it works. And then 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks later, people come back and it's like, oh my God, now I have all this free time. What do I do with it?
Right.
Well, you can do whatever you want. You can start the other business you wanted or that business you wanted. You can spend time with your loved ones. You can actually give yourself time, right? Meditate, walk in nature, do whatever you want. And it's so beautiful to see that we don't have to work 80 hours a week to be successful. We don't even have to work 40 hours a week to be successful. And we've seen many examples of that.
Yeah, those are great examples. I love that. I see that with a number of my clients as well. And, I'll tell you something funny that I do on the side, Constantine, that sort of fuels my purpose. And I recommend not necessarily this exact thing, but anything for your listeners. Like I said, my kids are college age. I board dogs periodically. So one dog family at a time. I either watch them for the day or I board them. Right now I have a 95-pound black lab here that's exceptionally well behaved. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because literally time stands still for me when I'm caring for a dog. And that is priceless. This is not about money for me. This is about doing something that provides value to other people, and I just get a kick out of it. It supports my overall well-being on so many levels. Like I said, it's totally priceless. So I encourage people to sort of think about, maybe not a side hustle like a dog business, but what's something that you really love that makes you feel so good? It makes you feel good, even if it's going to a cafe once a week sitting outside and people watching. Is that something that you can, set time aside to do? So just another example.
I love this so much, Erin. Yes, I mean, I'm a big, big, big dog lover myself. I have two of my own, and literally, you're right. Time stops, and I personally get to learn so much from my dogs all the time, like being in the moment and enjoying everything, and not allowing things to bring you down, really, right? Like they're in the crates right now because they're very well behaved when it comes to that, and they're just chilling there. When I go to let them out to take them for a walk here shortly, they'll be the happiest beings ever, right? Now, bringing it back to what you just said as well is, yeah, find those things that light you up. It might be a walk in nature. It might be playing a musical instrument. It might be actually just drawing or journaling or meditating or anything like that, and do more of it. Because we're in this busy world, right? In this busy, busy, stressful world, where are you most prone to make sacrifices? In your own well-being. That's what I found. Which means that you put yourself last, and you end up giving up on things that bring you joy. Like you might be and be like, I'm so busy now, I'm not gonna have time to board any dogs. I'm gonna stop doing that because I just want to focus on my business and grow this. And all of a sudden a part of you just goes away. Right? And then other people are like, well, no, I can't take 4 hours this weekend to go fish if that's what brings me happiness, because I have to do A, B, and C. And then when we start doing that, it's such a snowball effect that essentially you start eliminating more and more from your life, and then you strip away all the joy, you strip away all the connection, you strip away all the happiness, the fulfillment, and all of a sudden you wake up one day, you're like, what have I done? Why am I miserable? Why don't I find fulfillment? And by the way, that's my story essentially. When I woke up one day a few years ago, and I'm like, I did it all myself. And the reason I'm here in this moment is because I did that. So it's time to change. And I love your story and the example you gave.
Yeah, I really appreciate that story, and I think that's similar to my own experience. I mean, when I literally, the name of my business, Soul Values, sort of came to me in a really difficult moment a number of years ago, not that long ago, less than 5 years ago. I was sitting on the sofa. I wasn't feeling great. I probably had a migraine or some kind of a flare, who knows? And I was feeling lonely and sort of like, what have I done? Why is my life not where I want it to be? What do I need to hear? And literally I heard soul values, and like it just kind of like the words came to me, and I was like, what? Did I just really hear that? So that became the name of my business after I did some additional meditation on it. And I think challenges. So I think that's a great point. Is that sometimes hitting rock bottom, whatever that means, whether it's overworking, having health issues, relationship issues, financial breakdowns, hitting some form of rock bottom usually leads to a significant transformation of some type if you're open to it. And that's what I want people to realize, is that this is not as like finding happiness and peace is not as complicated as you might think. It's really just, it's sort of like that analogy, slow down to speed up. As soon as you slow down,
Exactly.
right, and understand that your brain has all these automatic processes going on, and you can retrain them, life just becomes a lot easier, especially if you can, I think my belief system is that aligning with your inherent values, your soul values, your purpose, that's the key to experiencing more effectiveness and ease and balance. However, I want to really state that it's a personalized experience. How you find balance is very different than how I find balance. So it's sort of a framework, it's an idea, and it sounds like you're doing the same thing with your clients too. And
Exactly.
I just I just really value that you're doing that.
Well, there's not enough people in the world, in my opinion, that yet that do the work to find who they are and do more of what they love or what's in their heart. And part of my mission is to bring as much awareness to this as possible, so then people can make a choice. Hey, at least I know that I'm choosing to stay this way, to stay small, to do my part, and that's okay. That there's no judgment. That's just your choice. And when I say small, I mean that's by my definition. By your definition, it could be as big as you want, right? And what I love about everything that we just talked about today is that at the end of the day, the person that holds the power is you. If you admit that or not, if you see that or not, it's kind of a big deal right now, right? Because if you are in a spot where you don't really see that you hold the power to change anything in your circumstances, that's okay. Take a step back, like I said, do less, and then allow for things like, in your example, names to come up or ideas to come up, that intuition, right? That connection to nature, to spirit, whatever you want to call it, to do its magic. Because again, in a busy, stressful world, we hear a lot less of that. And for example, the name of this podcast, among many other things, is one thing that came to me very similar to yours, right? It just came to me in a meditation session. I'm like, that's interesting, right? So while in the past, in the busy version of me, there was no time to meditate. There was no time to be with myself. There was no time to do anything like really brought a ton of joy and fulfillment to me, other than, of course, superficial stuff, distractions like gaming and food and Netflix, which is nothing inherently bad with those, but they weren't really bringing me closer to the life I wanted. So it's really, really interesting, Erin, to see your take and understand, like someone like yourself that's been suffering so much and had such a tough journey, yet you've been so so successful as well. It's so beautiful to see, because that's inspirational to me.
And likewise, Constantine, I actually have a question for you. So when you experienced your first sort of transformation in this experience a couple of years ago and came up with the name Unleash Thyself, it's that whole time period, what do you think was the sort of the first thing that helped you transform outside of that burnout that you were experiencing? Like what was
Yes.
what worked most effectively for you, or what triggered it?
Thank you. That's a great question. It was a chain reaction, to be honest with you, and I've looked back at this quite a lot. The first catalyst for me was essentially waking up one day, a few weeks after I got a big promotion for a top 15 Fortune 15 company, right? So very successful in my career, and yet, despite everything I had and I had achieved, I had very little joy and fulfillment. And I was like, yeah, more money, more shiny toys, but it wasn't really bringing me anything. So that was really the wake up call to say, I need to do something. And I've always been someone that valued my professional growth significantly, which meant I was always someone learning and growing and being a top performer and a high achiever. And that was what kickstarted all of this back in 2021. And then I would say the biggest catalyst was reflection. Literally, like if I am to be honest, it's reflection. Like stopping, literally slowing down to be like, hey, what's actually going on? And for me, that was huge, because now reflection has become such a huge part of my life, right? And then from reflection, it went to giving time to myself. I went on a journey of about 3 weeks to discover myself in Ecuador, and coming back from that, I had a huge spiritual awakening, among other things. Started working on my purpose, which took me a bit of time because it also came with a lot of other complications. And then from there, like a lot of other things happened, right? I would say, honestly, it's not one thing, but there are many things that once they get lit up, right? Once the seed is sprouting, it can move the ball really quickly. And that's what I'm seeing right now, is because the transformation I had in, let's say, 2023, last year, from the external world, it seems like it's been massive, because I have people asking me all the time, how could you do all those things? And it took me a while to realize that. But offline, we talked about how the last 6 months of this year alone have been on an even crazier level. And if you told me this a year and a half ago, I would not believe you, not even close. And that's why I want for everyone listening and everyone that I get to work with and inspire is that, A, it doesn't have to be complicated. And B, it can actually happen really fast if you believe in yourself and you give yourself the energy and the effort and the time you give to other things, right? So put yourself first, invest in yourself.
Yes. I'm sorry you experienced it. However, I
Oh no,
love that
I'll
you
catch you.
turned it
I'll catch
around.
you off there.
Actually, I'm not sorry.
Exactly. I'm
I'm
not
not
sorry at all.
sorry. Yeah.
I mean, I was suicidal, Erin, right? I was suicidal. I was so depressed. 2021, even 2022, I was going through this. And in the moment, I was feeling sorry for myself, right? And people were as well. I was like, oh, this guy has everything that he wants. How can he be sorry, right? And that was actually part of the problem because from the external world, people were like, I want what you have. And from the internal world, I'm like, why would you? I mean, this is not a happy life, right? So that's the juxtaposition. But you're right. I mean, I love that you said the word sorry there because people have the reaction sometimes. I'm like, yeah, I mean, sure. But I could say the same thing about your journey. I mean, your journey was technically, from my point of view, was even tougher than mine because to be in a spot where it's like so scary to like fall down and like, just stop. I mean, that, oh my God. Anyway, I didn't want to digress, but yes, I'm grateful it happened because otherwise I wouldn't be here today. And I would imagine you're very similar because you practice gratitude and we just talked about that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I caught myself saying I'm sorry, and then you and I both corrected me because
Yeah.
I'm actually like I said, I'm not sorry about my own experience, my challenges, all my traumas, everything have led me to the place that I'm at right now, and I love where I'm at. So there's no complaint about that. I feel very
Yes.
fortunate, actually.
Now, let me add something because I see this all the time with clients, but also with people in my life, is that when something is happening to you, let's say, right, because you're seeing it as happening to you, like the condition you experience, my depression, um, things like this, in that moment, it's easy to feel sorry for yourself
Mm.
and blame yourself, right? I feel the blame part is so huge because I remember when I was feeling down, I was blaming myself. It's like, why can't I be different? Why can't I be like someone else? Because I have everything, so I should be a certain way, right? So this full blown expectation from external sources comes in, and then that compounds the problem. So if you find yourself in a spot like that, I feel like giving yourself grace first of all, and reducing the judgment is a critical step in allowing yourself to go to the next level. Because yes, when you're in the middle of it, it's hard to be grateful for the experience you're having if it's a tough one.
Yeah, I hear you on that very deeply. I experienced a lot of depression early on in my illnesses. In fact, I'm going to be very honest with you. It led to my marriage breaking down
Mhm.
completely. I mean, because I was not able to very much be present. I was so terrified of dying, literally dying, because they had sort of told me that my condition was progressive and that they didn't know when I was going to die, how I was going to die, all of these things. And I had two young children by my side. I lost my mind. Let's just put it that way.
And how could
Which
you not, right? It's tough.
which by the way impacted my medical condition. So I got sicker because I was stressed out. So it literally ruined my marriage. It made my ability to walk and be effective in general, just be a parent, a lot worse. And so when I kind of shifted that, similar to how you went through your own experience, look what happened on the other end of it. Now, it's not overnight. I don't want your listeners to think this is overnight, but the transformation, I mean, you could have a profound transformation in even a couple weeks, I think, for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It can be. I've seen it in my clients where they come in, and some within a week or two, they have such a big awakening and a shift that they can't believe it. And sometimes I can't, to be honest. But now I've seen it enough where I'm like, huh, Okay, the power of our mind, and you talk to this a lot, the power of our soul, our spirit is so big that we don't even realize it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it just takes that one person or that one group of people to give you a different perspective at the right time to plant a seed, and then everything sprouts in the right direction. And I mean, you have to be open to hearing it and listening to it, because I know while I was going through my stuff, I wasn't necessarily open to a whole lot, which made my journey longer than it should have been.
Yeah, I think openness to the possibility is sort of a critical component.
Yeah, having an open mind, absolutely, absolutely. Erin, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you.
You as well.
Will bring this one to a close here, but before we do so, I always love to give you an opportunity to share anything else that's coming up for you in the moment that maybe we haven't covered, maybe we did cover and you want to reemphasize. But what's one last thing you want to leave us with?
Well, I just want to restate that burnout and stress and overwhelm are all things that are part of the human condition, and you have the ability and the tools inherent in you to shift that. And if you're just open to that possibility, you're going to find that life across the board just feels better. So chase those feel good moments, those small feel good moments, because those small feel good moments add up and lead to sort of a feel good life experience, which we all want to have.
Yes, what a beautiful message to leave us on. Erin, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure, Constantine. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration of personal transformation. Your presence and engagement are at the heart of what we do, and I sincerely appreciate you, your time, and thirst for knowledge, inspiration, and empowerment. Please consider showing your support by hitting like, subscribe, leaving a comment, or writing a review. Your engagement not only fuels our mission, but also helps others discover these insights. For more daily guidance on personal transformation across the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical realms, be sure to visit our website at unleashthyself.com. You can also find us on Instagram at unleashthyselftoday, TikTok and YouTube at Unleash Thyself, and there we post daily content designed to inspire and empower you on your journey. If you have any specific thoughts, questions, or feedback, I truly value your input. I would love to hear from you. Together, we're building a community united in authenticity and purpose. Once again, thank you for being a part of this movement. Until next time, continue to embrace your true self and live a life on purpose, with purpose. See you in the next episode.